I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute. Israel launching airstrikes on Gaza overnight, killing hundreds after talks to extend the ceasefire broke down. The 2-month ceasefire began back in January. The Israeli government vowing to keep fighting until Hamas releases all remaining hostages, including U.S. citizens. Waymo is expanding to the South Bay. The company says that self-driving cars will begin testing through most of San Jose, but passengers are not allowed just yet. This follows their recent expansion into the peninsula. Waymo also got the green light to map roadways around SFO. Today is day 7 of the VTA strike in Santa Clara County. The union says its last meeting with the transit agency was Friday with no other scheduled. The union is demanding more money and better benefits. The VTA says it's committed to finalizing a contract. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast 8 to 9 p.m. on Pix Plus, 44K to 12.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
It is a beautiful and dry day for us today here in the Bay Area with sunny skies expected into this afternoon. Quite the contrast compared to yesterday. I mean, just within the past 24 hours, we saw over 2 inches of rain in Ben Lomond. Over a half an inch of rain fell in areas like San Rafael, all the way over into Santa Rosa, and all the way down into San Jose. A quarter of an inch there just from yesterday's system alone. Now, today we're catching a break. Tomorrow we're gearing up for one more day of rain, but it's relatively light. I mean, watch the system move in from offshore on Futurecast. This is tomorrow morning around 6:30 in the morning. The system comes in kind of like a windshield wiper, starting up in the North Bay around 6 p.m. So into the afternoon, evening hours tomorrow night, that's when we're going to need the umbrellas. It sweeps down to the south just around 8 o'clock. At that point, it starts to break apart throughout the bay. It brings in some snow to the Sierra, and then it clears up fast just into the overnight hours for Thursday. By Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday's forecast, we're drying up completely. And as we dry up, high pressure moves in from offshore. That does a couple things for us. It warms us up fast, and of course, it dries us up too. So take a look at today, sitting in the low 60s in our inland areas. Take a look at next Monday, low 80s, a 20-degree jump just within the next 7 days behind me. And this paints the picture really well, too. I mean, you see each of these tubes showing you, we'll see cloudy skies for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after that rain system on Wednesday. But by Sunday, forget about the clouds. We are drying up and warming up a lot into this weekend's forecast. And that's how it's going to be as we head into next week, too. That was just our inland spots, though. We head over to the Bay. We're seeing the exact same trend. Areas like San Francisco, over in Oakland, just across that beautiful Bay Bridge, we'll also see that gradual warm up into this weekend with sunny skies right around the corner as we head into early next week.
Well, what used to be a dirt lot in San Jose full of encampments is now a new place for people to find a fresh start. The 3-story modular housing project is located on Brownham Lane near Monterey Boulevard in the south end of the city. It will house more than 200 people who have been living on the streets. So Len Ramirez went along with its very first residents. They got to explore the new home built on the same site where they once camped out.
For the first time in a decade, Robert and Charlotte are moving indoors.
I like it.
And this is their new apartment in a modular, quick-build community for singles and families, just steps from the Branham Road parking lot where they lived in a van.
Heats up really fast. I like this thing.
And their new place has all the modern comforts of home, kitchen, bath, privacy, security, plus storage.
And you got all this room, the water.
Not to mention showers and running water.
It's different. It's different, but it's okay. I like it. You can come and go as you please, you know, and I mean, it's a lot better than being out in the rain here.
I'm glad we have a bathroom. You know, it's rough out there.
They are some of the first clients to get into San Jose's newest and largest interim housing community. It's 3 stories of stacked, prefabricated units that can house over 200 people. And what's really new is that the units can be configured to allow multi-generational families to live together. Mayor Matt Mahan says the site has gone from sore spot to bright spot.
I just can't believe this transformation. I mean, again, this was a site of frustration, of anger, of fear, of hopelessness, frankly. I spoke to a lot of the folks living in tents who said, I don't know where to go. You can abate me, but where am I going to go? Just down the railroad tracks, right? And that's what's so powerful about this model.
The project is funded by a $51 million grant from California's Home Key program and additional money in land from San Jose and Santa Clara County. It's run by Life Moves and includes on-site programs to help clients break away from homelessness.
Coming indoors is not the end of the story. Our clients are engaging in a number of programs. It could be with our employment specialists, it could be with our housing specialists. Oftentimes, it may be with medical professionals, and sometimes there is, mental health or substance use that might need to be addressed. And so our hope is that when our clients leave here, they're not only exiting to permanent housing, but they're exiting healthier, happier, and, with a plan for the future.
It's all still a little new for Robert and Charlotte, who have recently been through trauma. Robert suffered a stroke and heart attack last year.
Same time.
Same time.
Oh, wow. Stress living.
And although they had a front row seat to the housing being built, Charlotte says she almost didn't want to come indoors.
It's scary to try something new. I didn't get out of the van for 6 months. And I finally got out of the van to come here.
Charlotte is recovering from back surgery and hopes to be up and around any day now. They've lived through the hard times, which they hope are now permanently in the past.
Well, the city is also working on opening tiny home sites to create more transitional housing for its more than 6,000 homeless residents. A 3.9 earthquake rattled the Bay Area. It hit just before 8 last night near the town of Dublin on St. Patrick's Day, no less. There was no reports of damage, as you might expect with a quake at this size, but it was felt as far away as Monterey and the Sierra foothills. It even jolted a few people in the small East Bay town.
I was on my lunch break and I felt the earthquake and I saw stuff falling around.
I was in the shower, so it was a little worrisome. I almost sat down. I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, so.
If you felt the quake but you're wondering why you did not get a message, there's a reason. The USGS Shake Alert System is only triggered when quakes are above 4.5. The White House says President Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin today to try to negotiate a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. The phone call lasted more than an hour and a half. The White House has not released details just yet, but earlier, the Deputy Chief of Staff said it was going well. Today's call comes after Ukraine agreed to a 30-day ceasefire proposal negotiated with the U.S. It's been 3 years since Russia invaded its neighbor to the west. And a new Gallup poll shows 46% of Americans say the U.S. is not doing enough in Ukraine. That is up by 16 points from December last year, that number climbing to its highest since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in Ukraine in 2022. Now to the latest on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel ended the ceasefire with Gaza overnight, launching the first major airstrike since the pause in fighting. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 400 people were killed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the strike, saying Hamas has repeatedly refused to release the remaining 59 hostages. CBS's Remy Incencio reports from Tel Aviv.
Israel unleashed dozens of airstrikes up and down the Gaza Strip, breaking the fragile ceasefire, which had barely lasted 2 months, causing hospitals and morgues to overflow once again after more than 17 months of war. As morning came, Gazans sat stunned amid the dead after the terror of the night, final moments with loved ones lost in silent grief. This father held his dead daughter in one last embrace. We were sleeping, and the airstrike woke us up, said Mohammed. We kept searching for her, and praise to God, we pulled her body from under the rubble. The Israeli government blamed Hamas for a breakdown in negotiations to free hostages and warned more strikes on alleged terror targets are to come.
Let me be very clear. Israel will not stop until all of our hostages are back home.
In Tel Aviv's Hostage Square, many wonder what the collapsed ceasefire will mean for dozens of hostages still being held.
It puts our hostages in danger.
Israel's defense minister warned, quote, the gates of hell will open if Hamas does not release all of their captives. And in response, Hamas is blaming Israel for breaking the original ceasefire agreement from January. Hamas also says this return to war amounts to a death sentence for the remaining hostages.
Well, the White House says it has been consulted about Israel's strikes on Gaza and voiced support for the actions. Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area. Residents in Moss Landing concerned about the potential impact of property values in the area after a major fire at a battery plant. How they're questioning everything from the cleanup to the impact on their homes.
Everyone on this block is aware of the danger.
Plus, an old business turning to new tech, how a North Bay oyster farm impressed even Google with the way they adopted AI.
A tool like this can allow our people to spend more time with other people instead of spending time on a computer crunching numbers.
And it's known as the insurance of last resort. We investigate how lack of transparency with the state's FAIR plan can end up costing you.
As we head into this weekend's forecast, we're jumping from the low 60s to the low 80s as early as next Monday, actually. Sunday will be a beautiful day, too. 73 degrees in our inland areas with sunny skies around the corner. Notice how until then, though, we're still kind of dealing with some lingering clouds in the forecast. That'll be the case Thursday, Friday, heading into Saturday before a beautiful and dry warm-up is on the way for us. More on those rainfall totals coming up in just a bit.
Well, today, the Monterey County Board of Supervisors will hold its monthly update on the Moss Landing Vistra Power Plant fire and the ongoing recovery efforts to a group of residents, though they have filed a lawsuit in Alameda County seeking damages for the January fire. They were calling for further action and advocating for testing of soil and water samples for potential exposure to smoke and heavy metals. On top of that, anytime there is rain, officials keep a close eye on the power plant because there is a potential for the water to seep into the lithium battery storage facility and could cause another flare-up. This week, a group of residents petitioned the California Coastal Commission to review the environmental impact report conducted by a third party hired by Vistra Energy. Veronica Macias has the story.
Creating art has always helped Nancy Russell relax.
All of a sudden, you're part of a story that you didn't write.
Russell says she needs the outlet, tucking herself away in her art studio after she and neighbors deal with the ongoing situation at the Moss Landing power plant. She lives in the Moss Landing Heights area, a tight-knit community less than a mile from the battery storage plant that caught fire in January.
We were a small place, but we had the largest, 100,000 batteries just burned. And we are a very small place. There may be 1,200 people altogether, but in this particular neighborhood, there's only, I'm not really sure how many houses, maybe 40 houses.
Russell and her neighbors cherish the Elkhorn Slough Ecological Reserve, but are worried about the potential harmful materials in the soil and waterway following the fire. Her main priority is the health of everyone living near the plant. She also discussed a real concern in the community, a potential impact to property values in the area, and if the fire will prevent new homeowners from moving in.
If there is concerted effort to actually clean up and to prevent this thing from happening again, then there may be interest. But of course, we are concerned about property value.
The biggest uncertainty, says Russell, is the long-term impacts the Vistra fire will have on the approximately 1,200 people who had to be evacuated back on January 16th. Homeowners banded together to file a lawsuit against Vistra Energy and other defendants, including PG&E, who uses energy from the plant. The lawsuit claims property values in the area will be impacted.
We've had clients who are in the process of selling businesses and properties when this happened and then put an end to that. So they've got losses there, damages. That's why this is a mass action, not a class action, because we believe everyone's damages are different.
We don't have a crystal ball, right? So we don't know exactly, and it's so new.
Rochelle Rizeka is a realtor in Moss Landing, and she took these photos from her backyard the night of the fire. She's not entirely convinced home values will be affected.
This wasn't the first fire that we've had here. There was another fire a year ago, and it wasn't getting as wide attention as it is now. And it didn't stop sales or rentals or anything else in the meantime. But what we're doing is I called MCAR, which is the Monterey County Association of Realtors, and I asked them, so what next? What do we do about this for the community? And there's something called a Monterey County supplemental disclosure.
Just as if a home were to be located in a flood or a fire zone, the buyer will need to be made aware of the potential of another hazard at the storage facility. Russell is fearful yet determined to look always on the bright side.
Everyone on this block is aware of the danger, but also that what we can do to make change.
She's hopeful her community's experience will bring to light the potential danger surrounding lithium storage battery facilities to keep others safe in the future.
Well, neither Vistra or PG&E had anything to say about the lawsuit, and in the Bay Area, there are two proposed battery storage facilities in the works. One in South San Jose, another in Oakland. There's no agency, though, keeping track of the applications to build them. However, there is a proposed bill to keep these facilities at least 3,200 feet from homes and schools. The second day of NVIDIA's Global Artificial Intelligence Conference is now underway in San Jose. The big event this morning, CEO Jensen Huang's keynote address. Huang is expected to reveal details about the company's latest AI chip. Thousands of people are attending in person, but about 30,000 expected to attend virtually. Throughout the week-long conference, the presentations will be presentations on robotics using AI, natural disasters, and so forth. With the rise of artificial intelligence, we have seen strides in the technology out of Silicon Valley, but they are just using AI in Silicon Valley, or not just using AI in Silicon Valley. Brian Hackney takes us to the North Bay, where the tech is being used to help raise oysters.
At Hog Island Oyster Company up in Marshall, California,
Delicious.
They really do sell seashells down by the seashore.
It is so good.
Now I'm just gonna turn the knife.
Actually, they sell the oysters inside.
Really scrape against that shell, and that's it. It's good to go.
They've had the operation for more than 40 years, and they're no longer just scraping by.
I'm Marlon. I'm your host and tour guide today. We're also going to serve you some shucked oysters.
Marlon McLaughlin is giving one of the 2,000 annual tours here.
I really do feel that the heart and soul of the company is here at the farm and right out there on the bay.
And while Tomales Bay may be their heart and soul, the bread and butter is at their ferry building outlet.
It is the best recipe.
And on the plates of the Bay Area's best restaurants.
Kumamoto, everybody loves those, yeah.
And if it seems just that easy, it is not.
There are 10 million oysters of various ages out on the water right now that we want to make sure we're keeping track of them and how they're doing and mortality rates of this group versus that.
CEO John Finger has come a long way from his first 5 acres on Tomales Bay, with the operation now 30 times bigger. He adopted Google's Gemini AI to manage his complicated spreadsheets.
So we collect a lot of data. Having it in these spreadsheets that we can then even ask Gemini the question, can you tell me how many extra smalls we sold in January of last year? And that's extremely time consuming for a person to do that.
Turns out Google was impressed with how their software was used in the oyster biz. Did you just get a call one day and they said, "Hi, it's Google"?
Yeah, without a lot of notice.
And before you know it,
my passion is growing great oysters.
Hog Island Oyster had an ad courtesy of Google on the Super Bowl broadcast.
They reached out and said, yeah, we whittled it down over I don't know how many companies in each state, and we wanted to do this with you. So we were like, wow, sure. Super Bowl? Oh yeah.
All right, just about ready to hit the dining table.
Google highlighted 50 small businesses, one from each state.
It is the best recipe.
To highlight their use of AI.
A tool like this can allow our people to spend more time with other people instead of spending time on a computer crunching numbers.
This is a beautiful thing we're doing, and we're proud of what we do.
Google went hog wild on the company's use of their software.
Delicious.
But artificial intelligence will never replace the real people.
We're enjoying oysters right at the place they're coming out of the water.
At Hog Island.
AI is like, it's not going to take, we're not going to have it take over the world or take over the company. We're still a very people-focused company.
I've seen somebody eat over 100 in one sitting.
Wow. They actually get to see people enjoy it. A lot of farmers don't actually get to see people sit down and go, wow, that's the best oyster I've ever had. So I love where I work. I get to see beautiful places. So I feel lucky.
Hog Island harvests more and sells more than 5 million oysters and clams every year. Homeowners across California could be in for a rude awakening still ahead. What the state's insurer of last resort does not want you to know, even though you will pay for it.
I'm paying 2 policies, more than double.
We're now on the hook, all of us.
homeowners across California are facing a crisis with the wildfires in Southern California putting enormous stress on the insurance market. The state's FAIR Plan is supposed to help people who cannot get insurance anywhere else. So if you do not have the FAIR Plan insurance policy, you may think it does not impact you, but think again. Our CBS News California investigation found the FAIR Plan has a lot of secrets. As investigative reporter Julie Watts explains, what we don't know will cost us.
There's a lot we don't know about California's FAIR Plan, the insurance of last resort, which hasn't been that big of a deal for the last 50 or so years because the FAIR Plan was small and private insurers covered its debt. But now those of us without FAIR Plan insurance are on the hook. So suddenly, the FAIR Plan's secrets impact us all.
Oh, it's been horrible. It's so painful.
Just down the street from Helen Meisel's Pacific Palisades home, the neighborhood is unrecognizable. Meanwhile,
Do you feel lucky that your house is still standing?
this is Helen's home.
I have mixed emotions.
Just months before the LA fires, Helen got her insurance renewal letter.
If you do have a mortgage, you need to have the insurance.
State Farm only agreed to renew her policy without fire coverage, meaning they'll cover damage to the dwelling and personal property, but not if it's caused by fire. Her only option for that was a policy from the California FAIR Plan, which covers far less than regular insurance and costs a lot more.
I'm paying 2 policies, more than double.
California is one of more than 30 states with these FAIR plans, or fair access to insurance requirements, intended for people who can't get coverage anywhere else. To understand California's FAIR Plan, we have to go back to the 1960s. After the Watts riots, insurers felt urban property was getting too risky to cover. So California lawmakers created the Insurance of Last Resort. It offers bare-bones, high-cost policies for homes in high-risk areas. Fast forward 6 decades, and the highest risk in California has shifted from riots to wildfires. And the FAIR Plan has ballooned to one of the largest insurers in the state.
The reason all of us should care is that we're now on the hook, all of us, in case the FAIR Plan runs out of money.
Which it did, which it has.
That's right.
Former California Insurance Commissioner Dave Jones explains, so far the FAIR Plan says it needs at least $1 billion more than it has to cover the LA fires. And thanks to a controversial executive order that took effect just days before the LA fires, people without a FAIR Plan policy will pay to help cover the FAIR Plan shortfall with a one-time fee on their insurance bill.
I think it's going to come as a rude awakening to many Californians.
He explains every insurer in California is required to be part of the nonprofit association of insurers that independently runs California's FAIR Plan. In good years, the insurers can make money, paying themselves dividends from the FAIR Plan reserves. But if those reserves run out of money, say after a big event like the LA fires, then every insurer is charged an assessment to cover the cost of the claims. And now anyone with any property insurance will pay to reimburse their insurer to cover the costs the FAIR Plan can't cover.
So since we're all on the hook, we ought to be able to see what's in those financial statements.
But we can't. The California FAIR Plan is the only insurer in the state that doesn't publicly disclose its financials. And unlike FAIR Plans in other states, its board meetings, minutes, audits, and reports are private. They won't even tell us who's on the FAIR Plan's 9-member governing board.
And I'm a pretty well-known, insurance consumer advocate. People say to me, Amy, who's on the FAIR Plan governing board? Like, I can't find that information out. Like, it's not public.
Amy Bach notes the FAIR Plan board is so secretive, she remembers a time when they wouldn't even let the chief deputy insurance commissioner sit in on a meeting.
The FAIR Plan made them sit out in the hall.
Former Commissioner Jones remembers that too.
He showed up. They convened the meeting, and then they went to executive session and left the meeting.
Even the public representative appointed by the governor is not allowed to share any information with the public.
What do you say to the argument that since we're all on the hook, we ought to be able to see those financial statements, we ought to be able to be privy to...
Now,
neither are the other FAIR Plans in 35 other states, but they provide those documents, and California's does not.
if you're suggesting the law that should be changed, I'm not arguing against that. Yeah. But right now, this is a private organization that has come into prominence and is growing in an obviously haphazard way.
A public relations firm representing the FAIR Plan declined our interview request, noting in a statement that the FAIR Plan's plan of operations, rates, and discounts must be approved by the insurance commissioner. They later stressed that the FAIR Plan's governing committee meetings are private, adding the FAIR Plan has no further response.
It needs to be accountable.
Helen's still waiting to hear from the FAIR Plan about her smoke damage claim,
All of the attic insulation has to be removed.
while continuing to pay for 2 insurance policies, her mortgage, and the home she's renting until it's safe to move back in.
But I haven't received a penny.
And she's bracing for that added FAIR Plan assessment that we'll all soon see on our insurance bills, even though it's still not clear how the FAIR Plan is spending that money.
Now, by all accounts, the only way to require transparency from the FAIR Plan would be to amend California law. We've sent our findings to both the Senate and Assembly insurance chairs, and we have an interview scheduled with the insurance commissioner. We'll keep you posted.
Well, federal aid is available for homeowners or renters directly impacted by the Southern California wildfires. The deadline to apply is the end of this month on March 31st. Coming up in our next half hour in CBS News Bay Area, we will meet the filmmaker shining a spotlight on the real-life impact of the Bay Area's most persistent problems.
We haven't built enough homes for all the people that want to live here, which is why we have so many people living on the streets.
Well, us 5 years ago, she was at the forefront of the Bay Area's COVID-19 response. Now, she's calling it quits.
Public health infrastructure at the beginning of the pandemic, I often described as matchsticks and scotch tape.
So are we better off today? We hear from Dr. Sarah Cody as she gets ready to leave office. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is the Minute. Israel launching airstrikes on Gaza overnight, killing hundreds after talks to extend the ceasefire broke down. The 2-month ceasefire began back in January, the Israeli government vowing to keep fighting until Hamas releases all remaining hostages, including U.S. citizens. Many of you felt a 3.9 earthquake that rattled the Bay Area last night. The USGS says it hit just before 8 o'clock in the East Bay town near Dublin. No reports of any damage. It was felt as far away as Monterey and the Sierra foothills. Waymo is expanding to the South Bay. The company says its self-driving cars will begin testing through most of San Jose, but passengers are not allowed just yet. This follows their recent expansion into the peninsula. Waymo also got the green light to map roadways around SFO. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast at 8, 9 p.m. on Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
It is a beautiful and dry day for us today here in the Bay Area with sunny skies expected into this afternoon. Quite the contrast compared to yesterday. I mean, just within the past 24 hours, we saw over 2 inches of rain in Ben Lomond. Over a ½ inch of rain fell into areas like San Rafael, all the way over into Santa Rosa, and all the way down into San Jose. A ½ of an inch there just from yesterday's system alone. Now, today we're catching a break. Tomorrow we're gearing up for one more day of rain, but it's relatively light. I mean, watch the system move in from offshore on Futurecast. This is tomorrow morning around 6:30 in the morning. The system comes in kind of like a windshield wiper, starting up in the North Bay around 6 p.m. So into the afternoon, evening hours tomorrow night, that's when we're going to need the umbrellas. It sweeps down to the south just around 8 o'clock. At that point, it starts to break apart throughout the bay. It brings in some snow to the Sierra, and then it clears up fast just into the overnight hours for Thursday. By Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday's forecast, we're drying up completely. And as we dry up, high pressure moves in from offshore. That does a couple things for us. It warms us up fast, and of course, it dries us up too. So take a look at today, sitting in the low 60s in our inland areas. Take a look at next Monday, low 80s, a 20-degree jump just within the next 7 days behind me. And this paints the picture really well, too. I mean, you see each of these tubes showing you, we'll see cloudy skies for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after that rain system on Wednesday. But by Sunday, forget about the clouds. We are drying up and warming up a lot into this weekend's forecast. And that's how it's going to be as we head into next week, too. That was just our inland spots, though. We head over to the Bay. We're seeing the exact same trend. Areas like San Francisco, over in Oakland, just across that beautiful Bay Bridge, we'll also see that gradual warm up into this weekend with sunny skies right around the corner as we head into early next week.
Well, new efforts to address San Francisco's homeless crisis. Mayor Daniel Lurie unveiling his year-long plan to tackle the issue. The so-called Breaking the Cycle plan calls for changes to the city's street outreach teams and aims to add 1,500 shelter beds within 6 months. There's also an emphasis on accountability with plans to review how the city is spending money on homeless programs.
We are spending over $1 billion on these issues, and it is why we have to take a fine-tooth comb and look at every dollar that we spend, and that's what we're going to do. It's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of how we're spending our dollars. We're going to get more effective and efficient.
Well, the mayor kicked off the directive yesterday at the grand opening of Compass Family Services on Market Street, which will have 130 new shelter beds. The Coalition of Homelessness opposes the order, saying it does not address the root causes of homelessness and doesn't create affordable housing. A new documentary premiering in San Francisco takes an in-depth look at the housing crisis here in the Bay Area. Arlene Ayu spoke with one family featured in the film to learn about their struggle and their road to permanent housing.
These days, Carlos Rojas is grateful for the simple things. After an injury and relationship separation caused him to live on the streets of San Francisco, he says shelter and safety have become a true luxury.
I got shot and I wasn't able to work no more, so financially I couldn't afford to just move into anywhere. I didn't have no money saved up, nothing like that, so I had to find out what resources would help me the best.
Carlos now values preparing meals indoors, a simple activity he once took for granted. While unhoused, he faced struggles navigating the bureaucracy for shelter. But one organization made a difference.
Compass Families Program. They helped me out the most.
Compass helped Carlos secure supportive housing for his family in Soma. His son Andres says he's relieved they're no longer living in limbo.
It felt like, to me, like we got like more of a life in our hands than being out there, and it's a little more sketchy. Being inside the household feels kind of better.
Now, when they do go outside, it's to enjoy activities like basketball in the Mission, the neighborhood Carlos grew up in. Carlos's story is featured in the documentary Fault Lines, co-directed by Nate Hodeling. The film explores California's housing crisis.
Here in California, we have 12% of the country's population, but 50% of its unhoused population. And if you go into the hood of that, you'll find that it really is a supply and demand issue. You know, we haven't built enough homes for all the people that want to live here, which is why we have so many people living on the streets and why we're losing population in the state of California.
Carlos hopes his story will humanize the unhoused community in the Bay and beyond. Gratitude has become his motto.
Very grateful for it. Very grateful to have this apartment.
The kind of perspective that keeps him and his family shooting for more.
Well, that documentary premieres at Glide Church in San Francisco Thursday at 6 p.m. The event is free and open to the public. Today, Muni leaders are discussing potential cuts to services and ways to raise more money. Muni faces a $50 million deficit this year. They have floated around proposals to reduce service and cut lines, potentially as soon as this summer. Here's one creative way they could cut into the deficit: pickleball. The transit agency has floated the idea of putting pickleball courts on the roofs of garages at Sutter and Stockton and 5th and Mission. The goal is to get more drivers to park at city-owned garages. It was 5 years ago that life as we knew came to a grinding halt. Normally, busy streets became ghost towns and people were told to work from home. Stores were boarded up and busy freeways emptied out. This after Bay Area health officials ordered a shutdown to prevent the spread of the highly contagious and at the time little known about the coronavirus. Dr. Sarah Cody was the architect of that order. She recently announced that she will be retiring as the head of Santa Clara County's health office. She spoke to Devin Feely about what the past 5 years have meant to her personally and professionally.
The leadership is good, and in my heart, it's just a very personal decision. I know that it's time to transition.
The symmetry is inescapable. Dr. Sarah Cody, the head of Santa Clara County's Public Health Department, announced this week that she's retiring, nearly 5 years to the day after she declared
We needed to take swift action.
The country's first stay-at-home order in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Certainly 2020 was the most difficult year of my career.
Faced with a brand new virus spreading and sickening people at an alarming rate, Dr. Cody turned to a set of old but tried and true methods of slowing the disease down. Stay-at-home orders, social distance, and masks.
Remember, we had no therapies, no vaccine, a nationwide shortage of personal protective equipment, almost no tests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Dr. Cody credits those measures with saving countless lives.
I do feel good about those early decisions, and I do think they saved lives.
But she also acknowledges that she underestimated the backlash to the stay-at-home orders. Business owners and workers were increasingly worried about their financial well-being, in addition to their physical health, and the public chafed under the restrictions, often lamenting their social isolation.
Humans need to have contact with each other, absolutely. So, you know, that was probably one of the parts that really, you know, it was heartbreaking.
Bright, bookish, and never completely at ease with the spotlight that came with being the public face of the county's pandemic response, Dr. Cody nonetheless became a leader locally and nationally, following the science where it led during a once-in-a-lifetime health crisis. The irony is not lost on the doctor. 5 years after the pandemic first began, she is ending her career as a public servant, with President Trump once again in the White House, with the CDC under attack, with scientists and doctors and researchers being cut, and questions largely unanswered about how prepared we'll be for the next pandemic.
Public health infrastructure at the beginning of the pandemic, I often described as matchsticks and Scotch tape. During the pandemic, we got, thankfully, funds flowed to state and local health departments, and all of that funding is being pulled back.
Up next, the brackets are set. Now let the madness begin. The St. Mary's Gales getting ready to play their first round game. We hear from the star Oakland freshman who's looking to lead his team to victory.
as we head into this weekend's forecast. We're jumping from the low 60s to the low 80s as early as next Monday, actually. Sunday will be a beautiful day, too. 73 degrees in our inland areas with sunny skies around the corner. Notice how until then, though, we're still kind of dealing with some lingering clouds in the forecast. That'll be the case Thursday, Friday, heading into Saturday before a beautiful and dry warm-up is on the way for us. I'll have more on those rainfall totals coming up in just a bit.
Well, St. Mary's will play its first round on Friday against Vanderbilt, and the Gales are counting on a freshman to help them advance. Matt Lively has more.
This is the Northern California Honda dealers Madness Minute.
St. Mary's is led by their 3 seniors, but they also have the WCC 6th Man of the Year, freshman Mikey Lewis, who grew up in Oakland and is now back home.
It's been amazing just looking over at the crowd every now and then, just seeing my mom over there and her with a big smile on her face. You know, dad over there serious as ever, but, you know, still enjoying having a great time.
He was a highly ranked recruit his senior year, ultimately choosing St. Mary's over schools like Kansas, Illinois, and Syracuse.
I just felt like it was the best fit for like me and my game, and obviously, you know, it's close to home.
The last time the Gales made a Sweet 16, Lewis was just out of diapers. Now, the Oakland kid could be leading them back.
Have one of those teams that, you know, Coach Bennett talks about all the time. You know, it's a special group. We feel like we can do it, so definitely just want to, you know, be one of those special teams.
For the Madness Minute, I'm Matt Lively.
And don't forget, you can compete against your favorite KPIX anchors throughout the tournament. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to kpix.com/bracket-challenge to register your entry, then submit your picks before the first round begins on Thursday. 2 NASA astronauts are finally on their way home after being stranded in space for more than 9 months. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore were supposed to return after an 8-day research mission. This was back in June, but propulsion issues forced them to stay in orbit. Late last night, they undocked from the International Space Station aboard a SpaceX capsule to come back down to Earth.
All hooks open.
All hooks are open. And undocking confirmed.
Well, their replacement crew launched from Kennedy Space Center on Friday and arrived on Sunday to welcome the astronauts.
It's always a little bittersweet, right? You miss your family, but you love being on space station. I'm looking forward to sitting across from them and hearing about their perception of how things went and all about their time on orbit.
Well, splashdown is scheduled to happen just off the coast of Florida just before 3 o'clock our time. Coming up, we take you into the world of adults living with autism. We're going to introduce you to a young man taking on his challenges and learning how to shine on the spectrum.
I feel like this is where I want to be, you know, physically, mentally.
Never give up, baby.
March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and we are highlighting people and programs working to help young adults build necessary skills for independent living. Today, our Kenny Choi introduces us to Alex, a young man who is working with a group called Supportive Steps Services. Together, they are helping Alex come closer to reaching some major milestones.
Alex Glassberg begins to draw and express some of his frustrations, joy, and healing through art.
I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have enough skills.
The 33-year-old tackles each day living with autism. He's been diagnosed as high-functioning, but still needs guidance. One of his mentors, J.C. Porras at Supportive Steps Services in Santa Rosa, relates to some of the challenges Alex faces.
By taking that step into releasing some of that stress, anxiety, by just putting a line on a paper, right? Then you just kind of feel like that's very natural, and then you want to continue. You want to keep expressing yourself.
Alex is learning other adaptive skills to live on his own.
How to cook meals, budgeting.
He's been attending workshops for about a year. Alex also now works at Paradise Found Records and Music in Petaluma once a week.
I feel like this is where I want to be, physically, mentally.
He cleans records, does some dusting during shifts, and is hoping to turn a non-paid internship into a full-time job.
It's so interesting to be part of a team who's lovely and caring and supportive.
We definitely have opportunities to reach out to our community and help folks kind of get a start in the work environment.
Alex is learning to contribute in a work environment and continue developing life skills with peers who are tackling the everyday challenges of living with developmental disabilities. Pasquale Bolognese is the clinical director at Supportive Steps Services.
I want someone to feel, or my individuals that are here, to feel that there is something, the purpose to their life.
For Alex, he's one step closer to finding that purpose.
It's time for me to shine, which means it's time for me to move out and be myself as I could be.
That's music to his ears, and an even bigger circle of friends, family, and supporters who are helping him reach those goals.
Well, service providers recommend you consult with local agencies such as regional centers or county social services to determine specific eligibility and available services. Many of the services are funded by the state and come at no cost to the participants. Well, thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and a look at your top stories.